It is my pleasure to introduce Sarina Ferguson. Sarina is a doctor of physical medicine, of physical therapy with special interests in geriatrics, athletics of all ages, and the treatment of Parkinson's disease. In 2004, Sarina earned her bachelor's degree in kinesiology, therapeutic exercise, and rehabilitation. And in 2006, she completed her master's degree in physical therapy. And then in 2015, she completed her clinical doctorate in physical therapy. I haven't been drinking this morning. During her undergrad years at Sacramento State, Sarina was a competitive gymnast. These days, she volunteers as a medical consultant at her pre-college gymnastics club right here in Santa Rosa, where she helps injured gymnasts return to competition safely. Dr. Ferguson is the CEO and owner of Orthopedic and Sports Physical Therapy with offices here in Oakmont and on Farmers Lane. Now, we've asked Sarina to give symposium talks for probably 5 years now. And up until this year, we've always given her a topic. We'd like you to talk about arthritis, about Parkinson's, about joints, about back pain, osteoporosis. And so this year I said, Sarina, are you willing to come back? Sure. Why don't you choose a topic? And this is what she thinks she wants to teach us about. So please welcome Dr. Sarina Ferguson.
Morning. Hopefully that's not too loud. Okay. So I think he's going to put me on the full screen. I don't know. Anyways, so I'm Sarina. I am a physical therapist. I've been one for about 19 years, mostly working out here as well as Farmers Lane. And I did about 7 years at Palm Drive, the hospital, before it closed. So today is about posture and basically exercises we'll go over. That's actually like the last half, which I think hopefully all of you guys are very interested in. And after the talk that we're going to go over today, I'm going to move this out of the way because it's a little distracting until we get to that point. All right. So hopefully you guys all know that we're going to learn about posture and standing tall and some balance stuff in the end. So let's see. Okay, so today we're going to go over basic structure of the spine, nothing too crazy, no anatomy test at the end. We'll talk about how posture affects your balance, how important it is to stretch because those things are intertwined, and then also learning about what stretches are good and how to do them and what's effective. And then we'll practice some stretches and maybe some balance stuff at the very end. And I can show you guys how to all be safe at home. And then if people feel that they have any questions, we'll have a good question answer session at the end, okay? All right. So why is posture important? Well, as we get older, it does affect how we look, but it also really affects how we move. So our posture is kind of the foundation of how we move. So a lot of times we kind of forget and we get lazy and we start hanging on our ligaments and our posture starts to kind of go like this, which eventually can lead to limited mobility and more frequent falls as well as chronic pain. So it's pretty important that we practice our posture because posture is like anything else. It's something you have to practice, just like cursive or riding the bike. If you practice it, it gets better, which is good. And then you stay out of my office, which is also good because then you can play your pickleball or whatever you want, tennis, all those things that you were doing before, shuffle, whatever. Okay. So the spine. This is our lovely spine right here. This is a gentleman spine facing you guys. We have about 33 bones of the spine. There are 3 curves, the cervical, the thoracic, and the lumbar. And this posture is basically a normal posture. We'll talk a little bit about abnormal postures as well. Posture is how we hold our bodies, in case you guys didn't know. We can have good posture, we can have bad posture. We have kyphotic posture, we have scoliosis posture, which I'll show you in a moment as well. So there's lots of different postures out there, but we usually really like to be in what's called neutral spine with these three curves right through here, okay? So the spine is the base of our posture. But there's more parts to our body than just the spine. Our arms and our legs can change our posture. And we're going to go over that in just a moment. But if we have something too tight, it can change something. We have something too tight, it can change something. And so those are things that can affect our arms and legs. And all of this is closely related to our balance and our flexibility. So if we have bad posture and we have tight muscles, you're more likely to fall, you're more likely to have chronic pain. Okay, so these are the curves. So this is a normal curve looking at a person forward, like on the model, that first page, that first picture, sideways, in case you guys missed it. So that's cervical, thoracic, and lumbar, okay? Kyphosis is just a fancy way of saying that this top curve here curves too much. So you got that going on, okay? That hunchback, right? Okay. Lordosis is when you have too much of the lower part going back. So you see this posture, okay? Scoliosis refers to a curve. So we get a curve from the back, okay? Scoliosis, not only does it have a curve, but there's a rotational component to it. So if we have a curve, it's going to affect how we walk. It's going to affect our balance, right? Because our plume line's no longer normal. So those are the basic curves of the spine. Anybody in here have scoliosis? Raise your hand. See? Yep, you're not alone. There's a lot of people. In fact, there's a lot of people that don't know they have scoliosis until they come into my office. I have you bend forward because I suspect something's not right. And then I see the curve. One side's higher and you get a little curve. So a lot of people have scoliosis. They don't know it. They're screening now for it with my generation. So I'm 44. So back way in junior high, they started to screen us for scoliosis to try and tell us earlier so that I don't have as many people in their 80s go, I never knew I had scoliosis. Most people have had it most of their lives and it was totally fine until your body can't adjust to it. All right, so talking about how posture is closely linked to flexibility and that alignment. So tight shoulders, which basically mostly the front muscles, if they're tight, they're going to cause some neck pain, cause some shoulder pain, maybe even cause some numbness and tingling, but also increase your risk of falls. Tight leg muscles, same thing, we can hunch more. So if our hips are tight, that can also increase fall risk, but it's going to cause possibly some back pain because it just doesn't look very comfortable, right? A lot more work to do this than to stand up like this, okay? I have a few pictures coming up that'll hopefully make that look a little better. So on the green side, we got good posture, standing up nice and tall. We got that normal little curve in the back. And then the abdominals are pulled in a little bit. This is the same person on the red side, but they look a little shorter because they're a little more curved and they got less posture awareness, okay? Notice how her head's also jutting forward, and that doesn't look too good either. So hopefully by the end of today, you guys will have some good exercises to switch over to the green side and get away from our red side with that poor posture, okay? So tight shoulders, they contribute to that forward head I was just mentioning, right? And that rounded shoulder posture. Quite often, we don't think about all the things we do during the day, but most of the stuff during the day is very forward posture. Eating, playing with a puzzle on the computer, the lovely tablet, the phone, all of that stuff is very centered in. Not to mention any of your stuff, if as you guys were working, I know this is more retirement, but some of you might still dabble in consult. But all of that leading up to today also contributes to this not great posture, okay? And I think the biggest culprits now are really the phone and the tablet use, unfortunately, just because they are so close and in. But also think about things like sewing and other kind of scrapbooking, things that you might do, art. So all those things you do through the day that are kind of more hunched, they're allowing this to be tight, okay? So how does that become a problem? It leads to bony changes eventually. If you stay tight enough long enough, your bones will adapt and it can cause neck pain. It can cause pain that goes down into the arm, and it also can limit that movement. So if I have a forward head posture, I can only turn my head about that far. And I have normal flexibility. So it makes it a little hard to see out the rear, the side window when I'm trying to see about a blind spot. If I just bring my shoulders back and I get my regular posture, I can go a lot further. So that's how mobility plays into this, okay? And so it's important that we get to move. Now, tight shoulders, talked a moment ago about how it will also change your plume line. So if I'm tight here, my center of gravity is now shifted forward. I'm more likely to actually fall forward, and that's a lot of people's fear. So having your shoulders in the right spot and having that flexibility will allow your plume line to be a little bit more over center. And so my center of gravity is now within my base of support and I'm less likely to fall. Now, if you've been forward for a long time, it may feel really weird, like you are going to fall back, but that's where physical therapy can come in handy to help you get comfortable with that. Or practicing next to something like I'm going to show you next to like a counter or something to kind of get to recalibrate what straight is and what your normal balance should be. Okay. All right, so this shows a little better view of the shoulders and how the pectoralis muscles, the chest muscles can pull in, and how it pulls that center of gravity forward. It also makes a disadvantage for your back muscles. So when you have that forward posture, you're now inconveniencing the back muscles to not be as strong. So muscles actually really do like to be kind of in between. They don't like to be too tight and they don't like to be too stretched. They are not as mechanically strong as they could be. So when we have better posture, believe it or not, you have better recruitment of your muscles just because of the alignment aspect of it. So next we'll look at forward head. So this is, when I talked about neck pain, not only is it just that the muscles get tired from holding your head up, you think about it, your head weighs about 11 pounds, 12 pounds, and you're balancing on, just a few bones. So it's like balancing a bowling ball on a golf tee. And these muscles back here got to hold your head up. And if they're doing that all day long, they can give you neck pain. So that's where fatigue can come in. But also, if we're forward like this all day long, it can cause compression where these little nerves come out, okay? So this is your cervical spine. These are your vertebral bodies. And these little yellow things are your nerves. So if we open it up and have a little bit better posture, those holes open up and you have less arm discomfort. If anybody gets that numbness and tingling or zaps down the arms and have a history of neck problems, it's usually coming from one of these nerves being pinched. So if we have that forward head posture, it compresses those, and that's how you can get arm pain, even though it's coming from the neck. And so that's why it's important to be up tall, okay? We'll go over lower back in just a moment. All right, oh, there it is. So tight hips, your pelvis, that's attached to your muscles attached to your pelvis, and your pelvis attaches to your spine. When they're too tight, it pulls you forward. It kind of looks like a little bit of a duck walk, right? So if these are tight, we're going to go over what can be problematic with this. Often, it's just because we sit too much. Our bodies were meant to move, and we sit more and more as we get older. Also, if we're afraid of falling, sitting is a safe space because it's less likely to fall. But a lot of it just comes down to our inactivity as we get older, and we're not stretching and prolonged sitting. So desk jobs, again, any of the extracurriculars that you're doing at a table or a desk are going to cause this hip tightness that you have to kind of counteract. So overexertion and tightness of these hips, I mean, will cause the back muscles to have to work a little bit harder too, because again, I've now shifted forward. These muscles back here, because they're too tight in the front, are also having to work too much, okay? And it can also increase your risk of falling, because again, my center of gravity is no longer right over my base of support. So this shows a little bit about that, shifting that center of gravity forward. It's the same guy between neutral posture and then that anterior tilt. It makes those muscles in the back work too hard and usually kind of towards the end of the day start to feel fatigued. People will notice this like when they're out in the garden or they're doing something standing up for a while and they don't have something to hold on to, or washing dishes because we lean forward to wash dishes. Those muscles will start to get tired after 10 or 15 minutes. And it could be a result of just having too tight of hips. So the problem with this also is that it compresses your lumbar spine. So just like up at the top where those yellow nerves come out, we have that at the bottom too. So it's a lot easier to see at the bottom. The nerves have a nice big hole. Those are called foramen. When they are in neutral spine, they're open, which is good. When they're not, and you got that tight hip pulling this forward, it pinches there. And this is what often causes sciatica. So if you've had sciatica, it's usually because one of these little guys is getting pinched down at the bottom, the last two, okay? So again, having good posture and not letting those hips be tight can open that up and relieve some of your pain. Also, it's a better shock absorber. So that actually, I forgot to mention earlier. Your curve, the way it's designed, is actually maximum shock absorbing. So when it has these normal curves, your little shock absorbing discs actually work their best. When it's shifted too far one way or the other, it ends up losing some of its shock absorbing qualities. So just like a car, you want to have good shocks. All right. So what can we do about bad posture? Stretch, move more, and also pacing yourself throughout daily living activities. So if you know that you can do 15 minutes of gardening, but 30 minutes is too much, then pace it. Break it into 2 minutes, 2 sets of 15, and maybe add a stretch or a movement in between. If you know you can sew for a half hour before your neck starts to get sore because you hunch over and look like I do when I sew, then get up and move, do some shoulder rolls. And so hopefully we'll be able to give you guys some good activities to break up and pace that. Often with yard work, we have to get it done. Somebody's got to do it. So I understand that because I have that same problem. Nobody else is going to do it. So pacing yourself comes in really handy. And hopefully, like I said, some of my exercises will be able to give you that little movement break so that you're not staying in the same position for too long. Okay, so we're going to talk about stretching before we actually jump into it. So stretching is really, really good. It's very beneficial for a lot of our body joints and also our muscles. If you actually want to gain flexibility to get out of the tight shoulder and the tight hip posture, you got to stretch every single day. It's one of those things that you can't just kind of every once in a while do because you won't see the gains of it if you don't do it every single day. The other thing that's really important is the dose. So it's really important to stretch the right amount of time. And before I became a physical therapist, I kind of like went back to my high school thoughts of like how long we stretch. And I think usually the gym teacher said 15 seconds or 10 seconds to stretch your hamstrings or your calves. And that's kind of what I went with until I became a physical therapist and learned that there's a whole bunch of studies on it that say 60 seconds is actually more optimal. You need 60 to 90 seconds for the muscles to actually adjust and to gain length. You're going to always feel that stretch in the first 5-10 seconds, but you're not going to gain the benefits if you're trying to get more flexible until you actually hold it for a full minute. So it does seem a little long, but That's what the literature shows time and time again. The other thing that I notice when I teach people stretches is a lot of people like to kind of rock into it and they want to get that stretch. You're actually doing yourself a disservice because you're stretching that muscle, then you're coming back out, then you're re-stretching it, but you're not actually holding it for that 60 seconds static. And you actually are more likely to pull a muscle doing that than not. So hopefully if you guys get anything out of this talk is that you're going to hold your stretches now for 1 minute, every single stretch, and you're not going to rock. You're just going to hold it static. So the stretch, when you're holding it static, it shouldn't be so intense that you feel like you have to grip and white knuckle it. It should be something you feel like about 15 to 20 seconds in that you can kind of take a deep breath and kind of melt a little bit more into it. That's a proper stretch. But if you're trying to heave ho, again, you're doing more possible damage than good. And also, you're fighting yourself. So your antagonist muscles are doing way too much work, and you're not going to get the benefit if you just kind of melt into it. So that's hopefully a cue that you guys can remember to melt about 15 to 20 seconds in. So, how do I fit it into my day if I have to do it every single day? Well, you can treat it like it's either an appointment or a medication. That's the easiest way. Schedule it. So I stretch at night because I have a 9-year-old and getting ready for school in the morning is just a joy. So I know that after he's gone to bed, I got about a half hour and I can do my stretching right before bed. So that's my routine. I don't forget it. I don't run out of time. Everybody's routine can be different for themselves, but that's how I do it so I can schedule it. Kind of treat it like a blood pressure medicine. I do it at night. If you like to do it in the mornings, that's fine. There's really not the best time of day to stretch. So if you're worried about if I do it at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to get more benefit versus 11 o'clock, probably not. Studies haven't shown that to be anything. It's really that you've done it at some point in time during the day. And remember to do it. That's the other fun part. The other thing that trying to remember how to fit it in the day is to embrace stretching and know how good it is for you because it improves your circulation, it improves your posture, and it leads to less fatigue actually throughout the day. So we were talking about sewing earlier for a half hour and getting tired or my neck getting sore, doing some stretching maybe in my 15-minute block or a 30-minute block, whatever you guys find for gardening or whatnot. It improves your longevity and reduces fatigue because it's brought some circulation back to those areas. So that's something that might also be another reason that you can go, oh, I'm going to buy into this stretching thing. But still, we also feel overwhelmed when I'm going to show you about, I think, 20 slides on stretching. It can look overwhelming because I do have a lot of exercises for you guys to try with me. You can always break it up. You don't have to do it all at once. So if you want to do some in the morning or some in the afternoon, that's fine too. Again, there's no best time of day. It's what's best for you to fit it in. So hopefully I've gotten rid of all your excuses. So where do we begin? We know it's good for us. We know it's going to help our posture. We know it's going to help with our reducing chronic pain. We know it's going to help with improving our longevity with our activities and reduce our fatigue. I find it easy to break it up into a few sections. So often the neck, the shoulders, the back, and the hips. And that's what we're going to go over in just a few moments. Okay. So everybody gets to participate, I hope. So this one is super easy. This is for your neck and your shoulders. If you've been hunched over doing something for a bit, washing dishes, doing a puzzle, whatever, it's the super easy one. Go backwards with your shoulders. So backward shoulder rolls can be really effective. I never really have to teach anybody a forward shoulder roll because that's going to put us into that bad posture. But the backward shoulder rolls, just 5 to 10 of those to break things up when you're doing something, sewing, quilting, whatever, can be really, really helpful. And that can be one of your mini stretching breaks. And this one's easy, doesn't require any equipment. In fact, none of my exercises are going to require any equipment. Okay, so that's an easy one to do. The other one, that's another easy one to do, and you can stay seated, is this neck stretch. So go ahead and take your hand on your head, put it right over to the side, and let that shoulder just drop down. You should feel a stretch really good right here. This one's great when you've been on the computer for a bit too long and that muscle gets tired or you're stressed out. So holding this for a minute. Today, for time length, if we did all these for a minute, we'd be here too long, so I'm not going to. But when you go to get out of it, go ahead and help your head up. It's a little bit more comfortable. You want to do both sides, okay? So that's one neck stretch. The other one I've nicknamed the deodorant check stretch because it kind of looks like that, right? So you're going to take your nose and you're going to point it down towards your armpit. Take your hand and put it on the back of your head, and you're going to give a little nod down. So this one, again, really good if you're feeling that upper neck pain, that shoulder pain, or you've been mousing on the mouse a bit, playing too much pickleball. And again, when you go to get out of this one, go ahead and transfer the hand to the front of the head and help your head up. It's just a little bit more comfortable. Those are really good tension stretches too if you're just stressed out and you're finding that you're starting to wear your shoulders as earrings. Bring them down. They're really good for that. Okay. Again, doing both sides. Often you'll find when you're looking away from your dominant side, so when you go to the left, if you're a righty, you're going to notice it a little bit more intense just because your dominant side tends to do a lot more throughout the day, and that's totally normal and fine. You can have a sidedness with your stretches. I was a gymnast, so I could do the splits really good on my left side. My right side, I could go down, but it felt a lot harder. So it's totally normal to not be 100% even. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just like you write with your right or left hand, you kick a ball with your right or left foot. You're going to be more flexible possibly on one side or another. It tends to lend to your dominant side, but not always. Like I said, I was a lefty in gymnastics, but I'm very much a righty when it comes to writing. All right, so this one is another good one for posture. If you have a high back chair, you can do it with a high back chair, but if you don't, that's okay too. Some people will sneak this one into the red lights when they're sitting in their car because you have a headrest. But what you're going to do is you're going to tuck your chin down. It's almost like you're trying to pretend like you're holding an orange between your chin and your chest, and you're just going to try and push back a little bit. And when you do it, you kind of should feel your throat tighten a smidge and then relax. So you're not tilting up and you're not tilting down. It's a straight back while you have this imaginary orange between your chin and your chest. And again, it feels just a little tight behind the throat, nothing major, and then relax. If you're not sure if you're doing it right, you can stand against a wall and you're trying to aim for the back of your head to go straight back. Holding it for about 3 or 4 seconds, just a pause. It doesn't have to be a long, ordeal. And then do about 5 of those. Again, it's getting you out of this and getting you back into this. This one, you need a doorway for. Most of us have at least one to get into the house, so we should be successful. I hope, right? Any doorway works. Doesn't matter if it's, the entry door or the bathroom door. You're going to put your hands down low, and you're going to take whichever foot you like. You're going to step forward, and you're going to feel a stretch in this area right here. And this is a nice one to just hold for a minute as well. It gets us out of this forward one. If you guys hadn't started to notice, everything is kind of aiming backwards. Okay. Again, with this one, don't try and shove yourself through the door. We don't need to give you a rotator cuff injury. It should be a mild to medium stretch. And if you can hold it for a minute without feeling like you have to fight it, then it's appropriate. If you're feeling like you have to fight it or you're getting any anterior shoulder pain, back off. You don't need to push that hard. It's not worth it. We don't need a rotator cuff tear. The other one that you can do in between activities as a mini stretch break is just pinching your shoulder blades together. Just trying to literally pinch them together and then back off. And pinch them together and back off. When you do this, you don't want to, again, wear your shoulders like earrings or look like you're a football player. Okay, we want to have a nice long neck and you're pinching and then relaxing. And the elbows can come back too. She doesn't really bend her elbows in the picture, but you can. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a really nice one to add with the shoulder rolls, like after you've been doing something for a bit. Okay, this one is just, if everybody wants to stand up, they can join in. It's just bringing the arms back and you're trying to bring your chest out a little bit and then come back down. And then out and then back down. And you should feel your chest rise. You can take a deep breath if you want when you're out. And then exhale and inhale and exhale. Good. That's how you can get your ribs to get into it a little bit more too. And it feels kind of good. And then exhale. All right. Nope, these are more of like a movement stretch, dynamic. Yeah, and that's why I put on here, yeah, do about 15. The ones that do have a straight up hold have 60 seconds. I do have handouts. I only printed 30 of them. But the good news is I gave my entire presentation, both the small print version of the exercises as well as a larger print. The symposium has that, and they're going to post it for you guys if you want to print them out at home. But yeah, I printed out the smaller printout. So there are 30 for people that may not have a printer accessible to them, but they will be online. So this next one you could do seated. You're just going to come from here and you're going to open. Yep. And then you're going to try and go up and down, up and down. And this one, if you want, you could do this with your breath as well. So you go nice and slow, but you don't have to. So if you were to breathe with it, in and exhale, and inhale as you go up and exhale. The nice thing about timing it with your breath is you tend to go at a more appropriate pace because a lot of us don't breathe hyperventilating normally unless you're a swimmer. So it's something that you can kind of pace yourself so you know that you're going at a good speed. Okay, you can do this against a wall and see if you can touch the wall while you do it. That's a nice little cue as well. A lot of people, when they stand next to a wall, they go, oh, I didn't realize I was that far back. I can't get there. So the wall can be a nice little tactile cue too. Okay. So this next one is a little bit more for the back. So after you've been gardening or been out in the yard, standing up and reaching over. Now it's not trying to reach as far this way. You want to think about trying to reach up at a diagonal so you feel a stretch through here. Okay, you can do it seated as well, but it's reaching up and over, not over. Okay, and if you feel a stretch from your armpit anywhere between there and your hip, then you're doing it right. And you can also do the other side. So depending on what you feel comfortable with, you can sit or stand. There's no wrong answer. Just don't fall over. If you feel like you need to, hold on to something. That's totally fine too. You can hold on to actually a counter to do this stretch. This one, if we go through life sitting a lot and those hip muscles get tight and we get that lordosis, we sometimes have that compression that causes that sciatica, right, that I mentioned earlier. So one of the ways to combat that is to sit in a chair. You're going to sit on the edge of the chair and you're just going to try and round down. Now, you're not trying to force this either. You're just trying to round down and let it kind of hang. And you can hang in this position for up to 30 to 60 seconds, depending on what's comfortable for you. But this opens up those holes where those nerves come out, and they can give you some decompression of the spine. When you go to get back up, use your hands on your knees and push your chest up so that you have help. And it's a little safer to do it that way. Okay. Again, you shouldn't be trying to like pull yourself down. There's no need. Gravity is a great assist if you just let it hang. And then again, like I said, use your hands to help you back up. It's just a little safer, okay? If at any time you feel dizzy, you can get out of it earlier. Some people who have vertigo or whatnot, that can happen. It's unlikely, but if you were, it's just because your inner ear is getting a little confused. That's all. It's a whole different topic. Yeah, next year. So this one is to open up your hips. Now, when you do this one, if you have a history of sciatica or if you have pain, you can skip this one. But if you don't have a sciatica history, then it's not a bad one. But it's not so much of arching back like this, like a gymnast. It's more about pushing your hips forward a little bit to get these opened up, okay? Again, if you don't feel comfortable, stand next to something solid like a kitchen counter, and you can always open up like this. You don't necessarily have to have your hands on your hips. It's just they always get these 20-year-old guys that look really fit to do these things, but the rest of us aren't like that. But again, if this causes any pain down the leg or causes any additional back discomfort, don't do it. This one might be one that you do sometimes and not other days. Okay, if your arthritis isn't happy, it might not be one that you like to do for the day. I have arthritis in my back as well. I've had it for about 6 years. Thank you to gymnastics. So some days I don't like this one, but I always like the chair one because that opens me up. And you're going to find that out with your body as well. These are suggestions. Listen to your body. If it hurts, it's not worth it. It should be comfortable. So this is another good one. Again, we also want to think about the backside because if these are tight, it changes your pelvis as well. So the hamstring stretch is an area that a lot of people forget about, and it's a good one to do. So you're going to sit on the edge of your chair. Whichever leg you're wanting to stretch, you're going to put that one in front first. It does not matter if your toe is pointed like a ballerina or if it's flexed like an elf. That doesn't make a difference. Go with what's comfortable for you. But then just take your hands, you're going to slide down your leg until you feel a stretch somewhere between your knee and your butt. And when you feel that, you just stay there. And you're going to melt into that. Maybe 30 seconds in, you'll feel like, oh, I can go a little further. So this is a nice one. Any chair that you have at home work, side of the bed, bench at a park, whatever you got is available. It's nice and convenient. And then you do the same thing on the other side. Okay? But it's good to have both sides of the body nice and flexible so nothing's tight on one side versus the other. Another one that's really, really good that you can do in a chair, and I love doing this with my patients because I get to do it too, is the figure 4 stretch. So you're going to cross your leg over. Again, this is for the hips. And then some people are going to notice a stretch just like this, and that's totally fine. You want to sit as tall as you can. There's 2 ways to increase the intensity of the stretch. The first way, if you want, you can just push a little more down on the knee. And you'll notice, wow, that did something up at the butt, right? Something over on that hip is feeling it, okay? So now go ahead and take that pressure off of the knee, keeping your back nice and straight. Lean forward maybe an inch, and you're going to notice that's a little bit of a stretch, right? Yeah. So this muscle right here goes right near our sciatic nerve. When it's tight, it can give you what's called piriformis syndrome, which is kind of making you think you have sciatica, but you actually have a tight butt muscle. And that's the muscle, it's the piriformis. So this stretch right here is nice and convenient because you can sneak it in and nobody even knows you're doing it. You can do it at your desk, you can do it at the kitchen table, wherever, because it looks pretty, I mean, nothing's fancy about it, right? Other than you know that you're getting a stretch. And again, you can have one side that has more flexibility than the other. My left leg, because I was a lefty in gymnastics, goes a little further on me, and that's totally fine. Now, I want you to try and feel what it's like to cheat. So go ahead and leave your leg there. I'm going to turn sideways. Go ahead and round your back. There's no stretch with that, is there? Or not much at all. Now, if we straighten out back again and we lean forward, that stretch comes back pretty noticeably, and it's not a big lean. So if you're not feeling the stretch, the most common issue is that we're sitting on our rump too much and not on our sit bones. So we call that sacral sitting. You want to sit on those sit bones and keep the hinge happening as opposed to around. And that's why I chose the lady with the side picture. You can see that her back is pretty flat. Okay? It's my favorite stretch. This one you need your bed for. We're not going to well, I can demonstrate it on the wall, but you guys aren't going to do it until you get home. So this looks pretty good. So you're going to have one leg bent, and you can just let the other one hang, okay? You don't necessarily have to bring this leg up if you don't want to, but you do want it bent so that you can keep your back nice and flat. So I can fit my hand underneath here. That's not quite what I want. If I kind of flatten it out by using my leg, it lets it hang. And then this is what I'm stretching right here. So the side of your bed works really good for this. You'll then just flip around and do the same thing on the other side. Gravity is great. It's just giving a little bit of a pull. It's not too intense. It doesn't need to be. So if you don't like it on the side of your bed, you could also do it on the foot of the bed. But if you have a footboard, it usually gets in the way. The other place that you could go to is the fitness center, because they have a cool stretching mat that you could do this on. So over in the fitness center behind us, they have a really nice 2 blocks that you can stretch on. They're padded. You don't have to get on the floor. And that's a good place to do it if you're going to the gym to be fit, which I encourage. Okay, so we got all of our body parts that are addressing the back and the shoulders and the neck done, right? So now we're all nice and stretched. How is that going to help with my balance? Those are a separate set of exercises, unfortunately. But after you've gotten stretched out, they come a little bit easier, and that's really, really good. So when you're doing your balance activities, which we're going to go over in just a moment, you want to think about standing tall again. So we don't want to have this happening. We don't want to have that happening. We want to stand nice and tall. So I usually tell my patients to pick either standing like a ballerina or a military stance. Both of those have good visuals. We all kind of think, oh yeah, I got to stand really tall, right? So the other thing I tell my patients is to think about bringing your collarbones up. So it's not bringing your head up, because I can bring my head up really good and still have bad posture. But if you bring your collarbones up, you kind of extend your spine and you're in a better posture that way. So hopefully one of those 3 things will help you to think about standing tall. Worst case scenario, go over to a wall, put your back against it gently, and see if you can get your tailbone and your shoulder blades and the back of your head to touch it. If you can't, take your fingers and see how far away you are and see how far you have to go. You should be basically in one line. So if you got 3 fingers, you want to work on these stretches and try and get to the point where you have 2 fingers and then 1 finger, and then you're standing nice and tall, okay? But the wall can be a great little biofeedback tool for you, because we all have, a wall or a door that we can stand next against. If you're afraid of practicing balance, like a lot of people are, because once you fall, the fear of falling really takes over, stand next to something that's stable. I recommend to all of my patients stand next to the kitchen counter. Kitchen counter is it's screwed to the wall. It's not going anywhere. You got a little lip if you need to hold on to. Unfortunately, my pictures with my exercise program that is actually part of my medical documentation uses chairs for everything. I really don't like chairs, only because you go to grab onto them and they kind of come with you, okay? So if you're concerned at all about falling, use something more stable than a chair. And remember that in all of my handouts, if it has a chair, replace that with a counter. It's safer. I wish I could do that. The other thing that I like to remind people of is that when you're working on your balance, it's separate than your activities of daily living. I don't know how many people tell me that I would try and work on my balance, my single leg while I'm getting dressed. I'm trying to put my underwear on. You're literally hobbling yourself as you're trying to work on your balance. It's not the best time to work on it. So, because you can fall, your foot's in a hole, and all of a sudden you're going over. So what I recommend is when you do work on these balance tasks, please do them separate. And it's absolutely okay to sit down and put your pants on and your socks on and your shoes on. I do it every day. It's much safer and you're less likely to break an arm or fall, okay? I do like that people are trying to work on their balance though. I just want you to be safer with it. So 5 easy things you can do at home. There's the tandem stand, which we're going to go over in just a moment, single leg stand, slow high march, the mini squat, and then a little cross tap, okay, or a curtsy. That's spelled wrong. All right, so tandem stand, if you guys want to try, you're more than welcome, and you can use your chairs in here today, even though I'd prefer you to use counters at home. Tandem stand is literally taking one foot, putting it in front of the other, and then just trying to stand for 30 seconds. So if you're really nervous, hold on to that chair to get in the position, get comfortable, and then as you feel brave, take your hand off the chair and have it hover. Okay? Really easy. If you're feeling a little unsteady, a good place to look is about 10 feet in front of you on the floor because you kind of have a good way of what's in front of you. It's a good static point. The other thing you can do is think about squeezing your thighs together a little bit towards midline. So you want to have a little bit of bend in the knee, just a hint, and then squeezing your thighs. You're going to notice that you're a little more stable when you do that. It's just asking the right muscles to help out. So you're going to hold this for 30 seconds, and then you're going to try the other side. And again, get set, squeeze your thighs, look about 10 feet in front of you on the floor. And if you feel brave, lift your hand up. So this one, pretty easy to do. It's asking your ankles, your hips, and your knees, and your muscles all to work together. Okay? So the next one is, again, getting ready. Hold on to that chair. Take one foot off the ground. As you feel brave, let your hand go. And try and hold that for 30 seconds. So this is a lot harder than a lot of people think it's going to be. When I'm screening people for balance, I'm looking to see that you can do 10 seconds or better. If today in here, you can't do 2 seconds, you want to get some balance training because you're more likely to have what's called a catastrophic fall within the next 12 months. So if you can't do this for at least 2 seconds when you go home, you might want to chat with your doctor about getting some balance training. Physical therapy does that all the time. We want to prevent your fall and not have to see you after your fall. But you can kind of monitor that, like, wow, I don't have 2 seconds. I need a little tune-up on my balance. Okay, and you do the same thing on the other foot for 30 seconds. I am a little bit of an outlier. Like I said, I was a gymnast. I used to do flips on a beam, so I could hold this probably all day long. I am not normal. You're looking for greater than 2 seconds and hopefully greater than 10 seconds as you practice this. Because if you're greater than 10 seconds, that means you're not touching or tapping down, then you're passing one of the balance tests that I could give you at the clinic. Okay? And like I said, if you feel uncomfortable with these, you're going to let your doctor know. You can come into physical therapy for balance training. It's not a lot of visits. It's usually we give you exercises for maybe a month for you to know what's safest for you. Okay? It's up to you. Flat, like sneakers are best. High heels, not good. Wedges, not good. Barefoot's fine. It kind of depends on what you wear in the house. What's convenient to you. Okay. You do want something with a heel back, and that means that a shoe that has a backing on it. Having slippers is a little more risky if they don't have a back, just because you can slide to the side, and that would be bad. Okay, so this next one is a single leg march. Again, you can be next to something like a counter, and you're going up slow to 90-90 and then down slow. You're gonna do all on one leg, nice and slow and down slow. Okay, and 90-90 is referring to the hip being at 90 and the knee being at 90 and then lowering. Okay. And I do like people to do all one leg first. I find that when I have people alternate, they start moving away from the wall or the chair. But if you just do one leg 10 times and then you switch to the other, you're a little safer because you're still near that item that you chose to stand next to for your balance. And this guy doesn't have anything, but you guys are probably going to do these again at the kitchen counter. Okay. The next one is to get you comfortable with shifting your weight appropriately. So it's called a mini squat, and it's not meant to go down really far, but what we're trying to do here is get you comfortable with sticking your butt back and not being ladylike and dropping your chest, which is the scary part. So as we get older, we are afraid of falling, so we don't like to do things with our chest. But when we do our mini squat and you have your counter in front of you, you're getting comfortable with sticking the butt back and letting the chest drop down. You have something in front of you, so nothing's going to happen. And then you just come back up to the normal posture and just getting comfortable with saying, oh, I can do this and I can come back up. Okay. You're treating your chest to counterbalance your butt. And so that's why we want to drop the chest a little bit. This also helps with getting in and out of the chair safely so you don't plop down. Because if we don't drop our chest, you flop into the chair. And that's a little risky. Okay. And you'll feel a little bit of a muscle workout in the thighs as you get closer to that 15th one. So this last one is a cross tap. It looks kind of like a curtsy. So you're going to stand with something and you're literally just trying to tap behind like you're going to curtsy for the queen or the king and then come back up. And it's just crossing and then back. So studies show that by implementing crossing type of activities, you improve your balance as well. What this is doing is causing you to weight shift, your base of support's narrower, and you're trying to actually right your balance as you come back up to midline. So you'll do 10 or 15 on one side, and then 10 or 15 on the other. And so these are all things that are really safe to do at a kitchen counter. Again, be safe. If you feel uncomfortable with any of them, you don't have to do them. These are just suggestions, but most of you guys looked really good while you're doing them with me. So I feel confident that you guys can do these on your own. And again, kitchen counters, can't say it enough, much better place to do it because it's nice and stable. At the fitness center, they also have a ballet bar on one of the walls, if I remember correctly, with the mirrors. So you could also hold on to that. If you have a grab bar and you want to do this in the bathroom, you could do that, I guess. But again, notice that all of these things were separate from trying to get dressed. Yeah. It's an important one. Like I said, you want to stay out of my office because you don't want to break your arm or anything or a hip. So again, how do I fit this all in? I threw a ton of exercises at you. Grouping it is one way to do it. So be like, okay, one day I'm going to work on my shoulders and my neck. The other day I'm going to do my stretches for my hips. That's one way to do it. If you can't fit it all in, you can alternate the days. You can also try and bring it into your activities of daily living. So in between those little mini breaks. So you're starting to get tired, you've been sewing for an hour and a half, do a few shoulder rolls, a few shoulder pinches, do your neck stretch, kind of add it into the day that way. And that's going to be how a lot of people are going to have to fit it in. If you want, though, you can go through the whole list and just get it over and done with. That's how I treat my mornings for my cardio aspect. Get it all done in the morning before I go to work, and then I do my stretches when I come home and go to bed. So you're going to find what works best for your schedule, because even though most of you are retired, I know you guys all squeeze a lot in to the days with volunteering and boards and all the other good stuff and just being active, because it's such an active community, which is why it's so awesome to come out here. Some of us need a little bit of help sometimes because we're just not good self-starters and good self-motivators. And so people often ask me, is there a good class I can do? What's good as a group thing? And so the studies show in the literature that yoga, Pilates, and Tai Chi are all really good for these situations. They address all three things, your posture, your balance, and your flexibility. So, in case you guys haven't checked out your website lately, I did. These are all the things that Oakmont has to offer for you guys. So I pulled it literally from your website. So if they're wrong, it's because your website has not been updated. But there's silver toe Pilates, there's a couple Tai Chis, there's women yoga, there's a balance and strength class, which I've heard lots of good things about from my patients. There's yoga, there's the keep active, the chair stretching, and then there's forest yoga. So if you need that little bit of extra support, or you just need a group of people to keep you honest and coming because they'll start to wonder where you went, one of these might be a good option for you based on what they have offered right now. And there might be a few more that I don't know about because, like I said, I just looked at your guys' list about a week ago to make sure it was current. And this is what you guys got. You guys got a lot, which is awesome.